Hello. Today I want to talk about relationships of any kind and how important it is to live in the grays instead of the blacks and the whites. What this means is when you're in a relationship and somebody makes a mistake, somebody hurts your feelings, somebody does something stupid, you do something stupid, it is a huge temptation, a natural reaction to want to live in the black and white, where it's all or nothing. You make a mistake and it defines you, or this person makes a mistake and it defines them. While in some situations, those mistakes need to result in some pretty big changes in the relationship, a lot of those decisions don't have to define the relationship. And this can be at work, this can be in society and communities, it can be in your families, friendships. I had a really, really strong friendship and things were so good all the time. We never, ever argued. And then one big thing happened after like 7 or 8 years of friendship, and it changed the friendship. And that is something that happens to a lot of people. A lot of people have really, really strong relationships that are built on this really great foundation of good experiences, and then one big bad thing happens and that defines the relationship and it changes the relationship. It doesn't have to be that way though. You can overcome those big difficult situations and you can fall back on that foundation of this is what our relationship is. 99% of our relationship is positive, and then there's this 1% that's negative. You can get past that 1%. It is possible. Now, living in the black and white means that 1% can change that entire relationship completely. But humans have this beautiful ability to live in this gray space where they keep trying and they keep looking for solutions. When they find something that doesn't work, they don't just quit. They keep going. I lived in Alaska for a bit, and there's a plant up there that it's other places as well, but I was introduced to it in Alaska, and it's called Devil's Club. And Devil's Club is this amazing plant. But what's most amazing to me about the plant is how it was discovered. I don't know who discovered the good of this plant, but there's so much bad about this plant. This plant's leaves are deadly poisonous, very, very, very poisonous. You cannot make tea, you cannot eat it in any way, you cannot consume the plant's leaves, which is kind of like the first thing you would think about a plant is its leaf. The berries on it are very poisonous as well, so there goes that. And then there's these thistles that go up the side of the stalk of the plant, and the thistles, if they get lodged into your skin, cause this really, really terrible reaction, and really nasty infection comes from it, and it's just a mess. So you would look at this plant and you would think, OMG, don't touch it. Stay away from Devil's Club. Hence its name, Devil's Club. But somewhere along the way, somebody continued working with this plant and found that the goo that is on the inside of the stalk when you cut it open actually heals the very infection that is caused by its thistles on the outside of the stalk. That salve also cures burns and cuts and scrapes and bites. It is an incredible use that is very, very widely used in Alaska, and I love it. I actually had really bad allergies, and I used it, and it made my hives go away, which was something that, like, up till that point, nothing helped unless I took Benadryl and knocked myself out, and then the hives would kind of go down after a bit of time. So this amazing plant was something that probably killed people in the meantime. Like, before people discovered that salve on the inside of the stalk was usable and cured other illnesses and cuts and burns and infections, people went through a lot of crap to get to that. I don't know who had the idea to keep looking for some good in that plant, but I love that story, and I love that that's how that plant is, because that's how people are. People on the outside can be very repulsive and can have a lot of bad about them that just makes you not want to be around them. And while I totally agree that some people in our lives need to be cut out of our lives when they are toxic. I also believe that people are naturally good. And when they're going through difficult things, they make bad decisions and they hurt people and they do stupid things. I know because I'm one of those people. I've made tons of mistakes and tons of poor decisions when I was going through rough things or when I was learning. And I like to think that I've come out on top and that I'm a generally good person and I'm doing everything that I can to give back now. And because I've been through that and I've been on both sides where I've been in places where I wasn't a very good person and now I'm in a place where I'm a pretty good person, I believe in other people. I believe that other people are worth looking for the good in them. And that means living in that gray space, not living in the black and white of all or nothing. If you're this, then it means this, bar none. People have more to them. People are very, very faceted creatures, and there's so much to people depending on the perspective that you're looking at them through. There's another analogy that I've kind of grown up on. When I was young, I took a lot of art classes and I paid way more attention in any of my art classes than in any of my other classes. I loved art, and I also had a very difficult childhood, and I often kind of viewed myself very poorly as a kid. I thought that I was like the weird one, and I was pretty weird. But I thought that there was something wrong with me all the time. I thought that I deserved all the bullying that I got because I was just weird, and weird kids get bullied and whatever. And at this one time as a kid, I was in this art class and we were taught the art of mosaics. And mosaic is basically taking a bunch of broken pieces of material and piecing them together and making this gorgeous piece of art. Later on, when I was in college, I went to BYU, Idaho, and they had this huge mosaic that was released at the time that I was there and hung up on this big wall. And it was a really, really neat piece of work, but it was so big that it was really easy to step up close to it and see that these tiny little pieces were nothing. They weren't important. They didn't look like anything special. It was them being put all together that made them something worthwhile, that made this beautiful piece of art. And throughout my life, I kind of hung on to this idea of the mosaic and that I felt like a mosaic. There's some pieces of me that seemed mundane, unimportant, unattractive, nothing special. But as I learned about mosaics, I started to understand how God views me. God views me as this mosaic, and he has this ultimate vision and this end piece in mind, and he's growing this piece, piece by piece, he's growing this piece of art. And that's me. And while I'm up close and I'm looking at the pieces that are today and yesterday and the day before, he sees my overall life and he sees this overall piece of art. And he can see me in this gray space of this one little piece doesn't define all of you. This one little piece might not be very attractive, and this one piece might be really, really beautiful, but these pieces all together is what defines you as a whole person and as a whole human experience. So when you have these relationships where things are difficult, try to remember that person as a mosaic, or try to remember that person as a work in progress, and try to be just a little more understanding. Don't put yourself at risk in order to understand people better, but understand that people are going through their own journeys at different times and paces and directions than you are. And while they may not always be on the same page as you or in the same part of their journey as you are in yours, it doesn't mean that they're not worth effort. And that doesn't mean they're not worth forgiveness and worth love and worth appreciation. People grow. That's what we do. We are here on this earth to grow, and we grow best together. That's why we don't all have our own planets. We are here on this earth together for a reason. It's time to connect.